Welcome back to the webcast. The Chiefs go down, the Bills go down. All hail the Jaguars, as Machine Gun Kelly likes to say. Let's talk about it. All right, welcome back to the webcast where we are recapping week 3 and making our week 4 picks in the NFL. Sorry for being a little bit late today, guys. Join us also tomorrow. We had the U.S. play Saudi Arabia today, so we're going to go into more World Cup, part of our second episode of our World Cup series tomorrow, 7 p.m., as the EPL will return this weekend as well. So we'll give you our EPL picks on top of some World Cup coverage. So come back tomorrow night at 7 p.m. and join us for that. For everyone in Florida and down there in the South and the islands there in the Gulf, we are wishing everybody a safe week ahead with Hurricane Ian. So please stay indoors and stay safe for that one. That is why Doug couldn't join us today. But we had a great week in the NFL, and we are just going to dive in here with our week 4 picks. There we go. All right, let's dive into it now. All right, so week 4 starts off in 2 days, in this Thursday, when the Dolphins travel to take on the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati. Now, all of our picks for all of our sports are done through the ESPN Pick'em website. So please go ahead and make your account there. We went 9-6 last week. Not too shabby, but hopefully we can pick it up and keep it going this week to defend our winning record of 17-15 for the season. Crack that 400,000 rating. So we got the Dolphins traveling to Cincinnati. The Dolphins, one of 2 teams that remain undefeated. Who would have thought after 3 games we would only have one AFC team that is undefeated? I guess that could tell you how great the AFC is. And the fact that that's the Dolphins is even more incredible. A great hang in there kind of game against the Bills. The defense standing up late. They only had the ball for 19 minutes in this week 3's game, where they were able to edge the Buffalo Bills to hand them their first loss and go 2-0 in the division. The Miami Dolphins are to start the year. What a great start they've had. On the flip side, the Bengals, with their offensive line revamp in the summer, are they doing better? Will they keep Joe Burrow upright? Those first 2 games, 4 interceptions, double-digit sacks in total. Definitely didn't keep him upright. They picked up 2 losses. They keep him upright last week, only 2 sacks to the Jets. And what do? They get their first victory of the season. Thursday, a quick turnaround game. The Bengals are at home. The Dolphins defense played 40 minutes against that rough and tough Bills offense, bending and bending, but never really breaking, only allowing 17 points. You take off that late safety to a great Bills offense that we've seen blow people out. I think that it's a little bit too much to go on the road on a Thursday night, and I actually think the bubble will burst down in Miami as the Bengals will take this one in this Thursday's matchup at home. Another team that's been trying to, deal with the offseason hype, Minnesota Vikings. They had that great win week 1 against the Packers. Looked like everything was going to happen for them. The offense has now kind of sputtered a little bit. They get the last, they scored with 3 minutes left or so against the Lions to edge out that one last week to go to 2-1, as they will travel to the New Orleans Saints, who, especially for me, I had them winning the NFC South with that offense that they have, and they just cannot get it going at all. And so, 2 super explosive offenses. And for all of us that have Justin Jefferson on our fantasy team, 4 points last week in a PPR league. is just not going to cut it from an offensive perspective for one of the best wide receivers in football. They are still trying to figure that out. New Orleans Saints, with all of their weapons that they have, losing out to the Panthers last week. Panthers snapping a 9-game losing streak in order to do that. And that offense just cannot get going. Only 14 points last week. I hope that they can return at home and give us the offensive show that they can. And I think that this one will be a close one. But I think Minnesota is going to, has the weapons. And, we see this in college as well with new high-powered offenses that we know have the talent, but can they put it all together? Can they mesh? Can they get it going in the season? It takes a couple of games to get there, and I think Minnesota, now that we're hitting game 4, 5, and 6, are going to get there and just edge it out down in New Orleans. The Browns will then take on the Falcons. Browns 2-1 to start the season under Jacoby Brissett, and the Falcons, Marcus Mariota with his only touchdown of the game, coming with 55 seconds left to get their first win of the season last week. Can they keep it going against the Browns and a good defense? As a running quarterback, always difficult to handle, but I got to give it to the Browns in this week's matchup. Washington traveling to the Cowboys under the Rush era, 2-0. I mean, great win Monday night against the Giants in the division. Philadelphia obviously flying. Can they make it 3 in a row and take down Washington? I think they can, and I think they will get the win down in Dallas over Washington, who got absolutely obliterated by the Eagles. They couldn't keep anyone up. Couldn't keep Carson Wentz up. That defense went nuts for the Philadelphia Eagles this past weekend. I think the Cowboys defense will keep them in this and give Rush just enough opportunity to go out and win that game. Seattle Seahawks, obviously, that great open week win against Denver, against Russell Wilson in Denver, but have sputtered to 1-2 since. Losing to Atlanta in the last minute last week, now having to travel to Detroit, who just seems like they play everyone really tough. They can put points on the board with that kind of young offense. And I think that they're going to keep doing that. I will give it to Detroit to go to 2-2 at home over the Seahawks. Tennessee bouncing back in a big way at home, taking out the Raiders 24-22 last week. The Colts 1-1 start the year. Who would have thought that their one loss would come to Jacksonville, their one draw would come to Houston, and their one win would come to Kansas City? I mean, a team that a lot of people had, going for it to try and win this division. The way that they've started off, kind of slow, but like bend not break mentality, keeping games relatively close and giving Matt Ryan a chance to win it. They were able to pick up a win against Kansas City that way, thanks to some special teams and coaching decisions for the Kansas City Chiefs. But still, they got the W there at home. Tennessee starting to run the football again like we know they can, own possession, own the ball, with a great win against the Raiders last week. As Derrick Henry almost got to 100 yards this time, but he's been improving week in week. For me on this one, though, I will be giving it to the Colts for that bend, don't break. I think they're going to start putting it together offensively with the weapons that they have, and I think Tennessee will just not be able, especially a team that knows them so well in the Indianapolis Colts, not be able to control the ball as much as they would like. Chicago Bears traveling to the Giants. Giants with that great game against Dallas Monday night, where Dallas just got it at the end there. Chicago, I think a big surprise for everyone that they start 2-1 on the season with Justin Fields under center. That great win in the monsoon one against San Francisco and taking down the Texans team last week that kind of like the Colts and really everyone in that division, the AFC South there, just gritty, willing to stick it out, bend, don't break on defense, and the offenses all are trying to figure it out. Jacksonville obviously doing quite a great job with Trevor Lawrence and figuring it out a little bit quicker than some of these other teams. But the Texans always in a close one, it seems like. Colts always in a close one, it seems like, I guess. And Jacksonville always gritty. So a great win there as they travel to New York. And I will give the win here to the home team, the Giants, over the Bears this weekend. The other 3-0 team in the NFL, the Philadelphia Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly. 3-0 to start the season as they take on a red-hot Jacksonville that can score with anyone. Bend, don't break defense. They got weapons. They have a quarterback that's playing fantastic. Trevor Lawrence, 6th in total QBR so far to start the season at 2-1. I don't know if anyone had the Jags 2-1 to start the season, especially with the schedule that they started off with. But the Eagles are a complete team all the way through, and I think that they will keep it going, being the only undefeated team after 4 weeks in the NFL. The Jets at 1-2 against the injury-prone Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh with an overtime win where nobody wanted to win against the Bengals, where they got 5 turnovers. The Bengals missed 2 different kicks to win the game. The Steelers even missed one in overtime before they were able to seal that one. They've lost 2 straight since losing TJ Watt, but they return home in front of that crowd to take on a Jets team that, I don't know what to make of the Jets. I mean, they weren't able to get to Joe Burrow. They lost 27-12 last week. They pipped the Browns because in the last minute of a game 2 weeks ago, where the Browns were up by 13 because they wouldn't go out of bounds, and they ended up scoring a touchdown instead of just kneeling it down. And then they miss an extra point, and the Jets score in 17 seconds, and then the Jets recover an onside kick, and then they score again with 20 seconds left in the game, 2 touchdowns in the span of a minute. That is the only win that the Jets have had this year. And I think even with a Steelers defense that doesn't have the defensive player of the year in TJ Watt, I think they are too much to handle for the Jets, and Mitch Trubisky at home will get them enough offense to get a win there. The most excited game on my docket anyway, the game of the week, Buffalo Bills traveling to Baltimore. Buffalo, 40 minutes of possession last week and took home an L to the Miami Dolphins. Baltimore up 17 points to the Miami Dolphins in the fourth quarter a couple weeks ago, and they took home an L. It just seems like the Ravens play everybody that the Dolphins lose to and then go ahead and smack them. Lamar Jackson, top 2 in QBR, 87% of the Baltimore Ravens offense to start the season. 5 touchdowns accounted for last week against the Patriots. 37 and 38 points in 2 of the 3 weeks to start the season, with a team that has no recognizable, really, number 1 wide receiver, J.K. Dobbins, and a company of backfield to start the week because Dobbins has been recovering from start the year because Dobbins has been recovering from an ACL injury. And it's just the Lamar Jackson show, and he is doing it all. And just can't be stopped. He's in a contract year, and he is playing for every single penny of his future $100, $200, $300, $400, $500 million deal that he is going to get when he picks up this season's MVP, because he is on that type of pace right now. Efficiency, QBR, rushing. He is a top 6 rusher in the league, and he's a quarterback. Okay, 87% of the Baltimore Ravens offense, like I said before. I don't know. I would love to know the highest percentage of offense accounted for by a quarterback in NFL history. Obviously, 87% probably isn't going to be maintained throughout the entirety of the season, especially with J.K. Dobbins coming back, adding that versatility to the backfield. But what a pace he has set here. The Buffalo Bills it doesn't seem like they can win close games. Every game they win is an absolute blowout. And I just do not see that happening this week against the Baltimore Ravens, just with Lamar Jackson and J.K. Dobbins getting back into the fold. And so I will be giving this to the Baltimore Ravens for this week to take down the Buffalo Bills and push them to 2-2 to start the season. The Chargers, Joey Bosa going down injured in the first quarter. Justin Herbert, 25 for 45, 297, 1 touchdown, 1 interception last week in a blowout. Absolute obliteration by the Jaguars. Go on the road to take on the Texans, who just seem to hang with everybody. And this is an interesting matchup in terms of I did not expect the Chargers to start the season 1-2, even with their schedule that they had to start the season. A tough start. I mean, really, most of these AFC teams, especially these big teams in the AFC West, have a tough schedule. We'll get to that when we talk about the Raiders a little bit later. But not expecting them to start 1-2. I mean, that team is a complete team. We saw what they did against Kansas City, even though they took the L there in Arrowhead this season. They are a complete team, one healthy especially, and not having Joey Bosa. We'll see if he returns for this game, but they have too much talent, and I will go with the 94% here that have the Chargers taking home a win in Houston. Arizona 1-2. Kind of surprisingly to start the season. Carolina snapping that 9-game losing streak. Baker Mayfield playing pretty well last weekend to take the Panthers to 1-2 on the season. The Cardinals, I don't know what to take of the Cardinals. You have obviously a tough division. He's losing to the Rams 20-12 last weekend. Playing some tough teams, getting smacked by Kansas City opening week. And then obviously the Rams last week. And who did they have in week 2? They had the Raiders, and they won that in overtime, scoring 21 points in the fourth quarter. That's correct. And so, tough start to this season. They get Carolina on the road here. They obviously don't have DeAndre Hopkins. Maybe some question marks still around Cliff Kingsbury and his coaching pedigree here in the NFL. But I think they have too many weapons, and I think that they're going to eventually piece it together like some of these other offenses that we know can score with the best of them, but just need to get it all clicking on all cylinders. So I will be going with a Cardinals win there as we move to the Patriots Packers. Seems like just a couple years ago, everyone almost had this game. Every other year, this was a pick for the Super Bowl. It seemed like Patriots traveling to Lambeau. And I think the Packers have a team that causes people problems offensively because not only do they have a great quarterback, but they have 2 backs that can catch out of the backfield, which help them go on long, sustained drives. They can keep the ball. They can keep the ball out of your quarterback's hands. In this case, the Patriots will be without Mac Jones, so I think that hurts them even more. I'm almost surprised that they even are getting 5% here, as I think the Packers are going to fly in this one against the Patriots. The Broncos travel to the Raiders. 0-3, the only team to not pick up a win after 3 weeks in the NFL. A team that brought in Devontae Adams to help improve a great offense with Carr and Jacobs and Darren Waller and Renfro, all those guys in a great AFC West division. 0-3 to start. Even with their tough schedule that they have, it does not get any easier with Denver, Kansas City, I think Houston as well, who always makes it tricky coming up here in the next couple of weeks. But they have to break this. Just like the bubble is bursting in Miami this week, the Raiders' sadness bubble will burst. The Broncos just do not, like Minnesota, where their offense needs time to get it going. Denver needs time to get it going, but I just don't think they're going to get it going anytime soon, despite being 2-1, bouncing back from that opening season lost in Seattle to pick up 2 wins. I just do not think that the Raiders will fall to 0-4 to start the season. One of these two teams, like the Bills, will fall to 2-2 this week. Kansas City against Tampa Bay. Obviously, Tom Brady 2-0 all time against Mahomes. That's going to be a factor here in 15 years for any of you that are trumpeting the Patrick Mahomes greatest of all time bandwagon here to start his career. Obviously, flying 2 Super Bowl appearances, 1 Super Bowl MVP, league MVP. I mean, 13 plus wins every single year, it seems like. So a great start to his career. But can he beat Tom Brady? If you've played Tom Brady twice and you've lost to him twice and he won a Super Bowl in the time you were in the league and you lost to him twice, gets more and more difficult to call. That's what's one of the greatest things about the fact that both of these quarterbacks overlap, is we do get to see them play a little bit against each other. Tampa Bay, obviously injuries all over the place. Last week against Green Bay, neither team really had their set of wide receivers that they thought they would end last season. Injuries, suspensions, players leaving like Devontae Adams. And I think the Chiefs, with the way that they lost last week against the Colts with the muff punt, missed field goal, missed extra point, even though they rectified that with a 2-point conversion, a lot of fourth down attempts, a fake punt, like in Indianapolis territory on top of that. I think that they're going to be strictly business in this one. And I think offensively are going to be too much for Tampa Bay to handle. But I do think that this is going to be closer than a 71-29 just because of that Tampa Bay defense is going to be solid. But I do think the Chiefs will have too much for them to handle. The Rams travel to San Francisco for Monday Night Football. Let's see if Jimmy G can rebound after losing last week, falling to 1-1 for him, 1-2 for the year for San Francisco, as they lost to the Broncos 10-11 last week, in just a gritty game that 21 total points. One of them was a safety by 2 points from a safety as well. So, and I think for that reason, the Rams are going to be too much offensively for the 49ers to keep up with. I think they're going to be piecing it together, even though, again, like Minnesota or Arizona, they just need to get it going all together on all cylinders. But they've obviously won 2 straight since their opening season defeat to Buffalo. So there we have it. There are our 16 picks for this week in the NFL week 4. So go ahead and make your account on ESPN and get your picks in, and we'll see how we do at the end of the season and how you do at the end of the season. And tomorrow we will be talking more World Cup action as the U.S. completed their last 2 games before Qatar. That is it. They are done. They now have decisions to be made on who is going to Qatar to represent the United States in the 2022 World Cup. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about all of our thoughts. 2 shots on target over 2 games against Saudi Arabia and Japan. No goals scored. Performances, bad passes that just come out of nowhere. A lot to talk about in those ones. Plus, the EPL returns. It seems like we haven't had it in forever because of the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II right before this international break. Many teams have really not been playing for close to 4 weeks now. So finally that returns. We got all those storylines coming back to you tomorrow at 7 p.m. So stay tuned for that one. Again, everyone in the South Coast, around the Gulf, Florida, Cuba, anyone down there, please stay safe from Hurricane Ian. And we will catch you tomorrow at 7 p.m. here on the webcast. From all of us here, we'll see you then.